Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Okay, I should call the meeting to order on April 5th at 6 p.m. upstairs at the town hall. Welcome everybody, and welcome everybody who is on Microsoft Teams. We need a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Do we have a second? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the next item is minutes of March 15th. Do we have any additions or corrections to those minutes? Everybody happy with the minutes? Okay. If so, have a motion to approve the minutes of March 15th.
So moved. Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would just like to say that I think it helps a lot when Bill distributes the minutes early so that we can go over them and spend a lot of time with me.
Well, we've always distributed them early.
I send them the next day, as soon as I get them done.
Committee.
I'll just briefly talk on the highway.
Okay, so why don't we take that first? Why don't we take them first? So, John?
On the highway, I took Suzanne on all 49 miles of road from Grafton, and we stopped and discussed different things that go along, and I think that she learns a lot more now when we started. And at the end, we decided we would meet with Danny the next week, in which we did. We met on Friday with them and go over some of the things that we were concerned with and give ideas. We did that with him. There was no decisions made. It was just a good discussion between us and Danny. And we were meeting weekly. Me and Suzanne.
Good. Good for you. Kathy? Personnel?
Personnel,
Put anything on?
Suzanne, myself, we met last Wednesday, and we're going to continue to meet every Wednesday, at 1 o'clock up here at the town hall. And we went over, personnel policy, we tried to ask some questions, and then the job description. So it was, beneficial to go over what you think you know all about that policy. You start to question, how did this come about? So, we're looking at it. Do you want to add anything?
Thank you.
Joe, just say it.
Yes.
Are the people at home hearing when the select board's speaking? No.
Not very well.
Okay, hang on a second.
No,
We can't hear well
Not at
either.
all.
you need to use your microphones closely.
If your name on microphone is on,
Yeah, they need to be, the mic needs to be fairly close for it to.
Okay, Kathy tried again.
Hello?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, but you gotta talk that loud. Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
Yep. I have new hearing aids and I couldn't hear, so.
Okay, the next committee is the Parks Committee, Village Park Committee. And Sue Allen will give a report on our meeting.
The Parks Committee is Joe Folio and myself, and we met recently with Al Sands, Mark Lamont, and Mike Field to talk about how to take the Village Park project and actually move it forward, to really get some things done and into sort of the next steps of this project. I'll go over a couple of the things that we sort of came to an agreement about. There needs to be logging next winter. We weren't able to get logging done in the park this winter, so that's been put off 1 year. So we're going to hold off graveling the parking lot to allow that to happen, so that we don't waste the money graveling and then tear it up when we log next year. But we do plan to gravel that lot for next year's hiking season after the logging has been done. I want to thank the Grafton Improvement Association. They have kind of stepped up and offered to be fabulous partners with us on this project. And there's a lot of this that we couldn't do without them. So having them come to the table was a really big, very important step. So thank you if any of you are listening. The GIA is going to provide funding to install a porta potty at the site, and I think we all know how important that is. The GIA will also fund construction of a kiosk that will provide information on trails and other things in the village for us right there as well. So once again, thank you very much for that. Thank you also to Marco and Mike and Al, who are going to coordinate volunteers to maintain the park. That's going to be a real job, and so they will be reaching out to the community to see who would like to be partners and volunteering to keep the park in good shape. We are going to create a new 6-foot wide hard packed trail at the start of the trail, so that people who have difficulty hiking on curvy, windy, narrow, dirty trails will have someplace they can go. Particularly seniors in Grafton might like a more stable footing to get a little bit of hiking done in the beginning of the trail. And that's something that the town is going to be responsible for. We had hoped to find some funding to put a lean-to up there, and at this point, we don't quite have the funding. There might be some efforts to do some private fundraising, so sort of keep your eyes open if you have an opportunity to help out with that. We also decided that the wooden sign for the park should look historic and not modern. We sort of informally thought about the Welcome to Grafton signs as a model for the kind of signage we might use in the park. And Joe very generously volunteered to sort of cover extra expense there if that's developed. So we were very excited at the end of the meeting. Everybody was in agreement, and we felt like we made some really big, important decisions so that we can start moving forward. Joe, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, no, it's fine. The only thing is, I think we need to have a motion tonight to approve going forward. That's what I think we need to do, if the board has any other questions or sees fit.
I'll make that motion.
I second.
I don't know what the motion is.
The motion is to go ahead with the report here that was in the Sue just gave.
Okay.
That was in Grafton News.
And that's the written report I sent out this afternoon and circulated too, with the minutes and I sent out last Thursday. Is that what you're talking about? The written thing that Sue had written?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have any other discussion on the park? Does anybody, Alan, do you have anything you want to say, or is Margo on, if Margo's on, or whatever? But Alan, do you have anything you want to say?
Is the written report just for the select board, or should the volunteers on the park committee have seen that?
Al, the gist of it was in the paper this week. I don't know if you saw it. It was outlined in the Grafton News.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was literally taken right from our meeting. So, because we wanted the public to just have a chance to at least see it before it came up before the select board.
Okay.
Alan, it was part of my chairman's report for the month.
What's that, Joe?
It was part of my chairman's report for the month. That's what it was in Grafton News.
Yep, I saw that. I do have a couple things. Just for information, the green and white sign that I proposed was actually copied from a brown and white sign that originally was at the Grafton Forest before it was renamed Molly Beatty State Forest. So there was some history in that choice and shape of that sign. Didn't have to be green and white. It could have been brown and white, but chose green and white just because our street signs were green and white. So I just wanted you to know there was a little history involved there. And I might say Wednesday, our group will be doing the trail clearing and some hazard removal. And I have been asked to speak to the men's group on 29th of April. It's possible after speaking to them that there may be some funding or some donations that come in after that.
Alan, I just want to remind you that Margaret was supposed to come up with some specifications or some drawings of what the sign would look like. So as soon as she has those, give it to the board. That'd be great.
I know she was in contact with 2 sign makers. I never did see a picture or design of what it might look like. Did not see a price. So she may be still waiting for that. Kind of expected her to be on the meeting tonight.
Okay, so if there's no other discussion, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good. Alan, you have the green light to go ahead with the park renovation project.
Yay! Mr. Chair,
Joe, could you please repeat? I have authorization to go ahead, but then I couldn't hear the last part.
I said you have authorization to go ahead with the village park project.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chair, I just wonder if, and I'm sorry if I'm out of order, I wonder if we could just attach the written report from Sue's committee to the minutes so that it has, so the public has complete access to it.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay, highway, Danny, let's do the excess weight limits. We have the camp precast, Norman, and Wind River.
We have also Coda and Coda.
Okay.
And let me just make sure that that's everybody, because I've gotten some in since that went out. Coda and Coda for their fuel truck, not their propane truck. Normanton Transit, Wind River, and
Camp
Camp
precast.
Precast. That's it.
If that's all, we need a motion to accept the weight permit.
To grant the permits, please.
Second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Bill has the authorization to sign it, so that should not be a problem. Before we go to the Walker Bridge, Danny, do you want to say anything?
Nope. I'll get mine at the bottom where it says other.
Oh, okay. The Walker Bridge.
You saw what they wrote. There really isn't anything, I don't know what you can ask them to do. You notice that it's now going to be 5 million and not 4 million, 5.2 or 3 million, and that is just an estimate. That's for today's prices. It may be whatever when it comes time to build it. But there's nothing you can do about that. The contract says it's going to cost whatever it's going to cost. However, if I remember right, and I can double check this if you want, if you don't want to build the bridge because it's going to cost too much, you can tell them to stop right now and pay them all the engineering, which is $500,000. I think the contract says they get all their expenses to the date you tell them to stop, and you can. But I don't know then what you do with the bridge, just take it out. I have no idea. When it falls down, you're done. So I don't think that's a choice, but that is legally a choice. Otherwise, you're just stuck with the contract. As the attorney said at the very beginning of this, you're not going to dictate terms to V-Trans. They're going to tell you what they're going to do, and you're going to either sign the contract or not build the bridge. So that's where you are. As far as anything else on it, was there anything you want to suggest to them? They're going to move the bridge a little bit downstream, which is toward Iva Fisher's house, by about 20 feet, cut everything off except the lower half, so the bottom half, the upstream half of that bridge, use that as a temporary bridge, build the new bridge, then tear down the old part. That's their plan. There's a little bit of right-of-way on the upstream side, not very much, because the right-of-way in the stream itself goes down about 300 feet. But on the land, on the Iva Fisher side, there's probably 50 feet by maybe 10 feet, so 500 square feet, and about around the same on the opposite end, which is on Ivar's property now. He bought the Coates property. And then on Eric's side, there'll be a temporary, most likely, intrusion onto his land to hold the toe of support slope while they're doing the bridge, but they expect all that to be taken away. However, there may be a little bit of that land they still need to use when it's done. So that's that's everything on the bridge, and they're asking, do you have any comment? So
I have one comment. I think we should be thinking about how we're going to pay our share, because we have enough way in that budget.
But first of all, can I ask, is there anything you want to respond to V-Trans before we get into that? I mean, that's a discussion the town has to have, but it has nothing to do with the letter.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question. Okay. So, Bill, it seems to me that in your letter back to V-Trans, you asked them for a response about the price increase. Did you receive such a response?
Oh, yeah, I explained that all to you.
I remember receiving the response. I remember seeing the letter.
I didn't.
5 million, but not the response from V-Trans.
I sent all of it to you. After I had a conversation with you. The response is the letter was, in my opinion, inartfully written, because he didn't write it the same way as the former engineer did. The former engineer wrote the total cost of the bridge and then broke it down. He wrote the $4 million cost of the bridge and then added right away and other work to the engineering that brought it up to the 5 million cost. If it was the same as the original letter, it would have said 5.28 million for the bridge. That includes, and then broke it down with the 750,000 for the engineer. The right away is just a guesstimate, because it may or may not even cost us anything for right away. But the engineering costs there, and that's, as far as I know, that's their cost to this date, because we paid 10% of that, and we paid them 50,000. Isn't that correct, Kim?
I'd have to look at my book. I didn't check and see what we've paid already, but yes, we've paid a good share and it's come out of the capital budget.
It's in excess of 50,000, I remember.
Yeah.
So what form, just a process question, has all this been done by correspondence, or have there been any calls or meetings about it? I mean, I'm asking the question because this is one of the biggest expenses we're gonna have as a town. And it sounds like there's, open pockets here, that the price can just keep going up. We've made a plan to spend 400,000 and we've been budgeting for that, to John's point. And now our cost is gonna go up 25%, we're gonna owe 500,000.
Well, Suzanne, do you remember the meeting that was held at the school?
I remember it very well.
And they told us this was an estimate, okay, and that was what they thought at the time. And yes, it is open-ended, and it could go to 6 million. And I know Bill mentioned it, but Robin Stern, when Bill and I looked at asked Robin, who was the town attorney at the time, review the contract, she says, you can't review it because if you don't sign the contract, you're not gonna get a bridge. This is the way it is, take it or leave it. And so unfortunately, we are in a situation where it could go to 6 million, and it could be put off, even though the estimate is the 23rd, 23, it could go to 25, 60, 25, and the cost could even skyrocket even more. So there's nothing we can do about it. But to John's point is that we have to plan. Now that we have, it's not 400,000 anymore, it's 500,000, and it could be 600,000 in another month or another year, nobody knows.
Just one more point before we turn it over to John's question. Given this increase and given the pressure that puts on the town's finances, is there any opportunity to meet again with V-Trans about these costs and about their plans? Or are we subject to their conditions without even another conversation with them about it?
That might be your response. We want to meet with you. I really don't know what good it'd do. And if you're meeting with the engineers, you're probably going to add to the engineering cost, but you can meet with them. I mean, we can ask them for a meeting. And you can put them on hot seat and make them explain why it costs so much more. But in the end, they're in the driver's seat. If we want the bridge, they're in the driver's seat. If we don't want the bridge, we owe them the cost to date.
Yeah, and this is not our first rodeo. I mean, we've done many bridges, and it's the same story. It's an estimate, and then there's the reality. So, I mean, to me, you can bring them in, but I agree with Bill, it's a waste of time.
The only thing different is from that meeting at the school, the way they're gonna do the project is different now. They're gonna leave one lane open, and that wasn't, when we had that meeting, that wasn't the way it was. And I think in that response, didn't they say that in 2 or 3 weeks they would be meeting with the town?
With whom?
With the town.
In the letter they just wrote?
I didn't see that.
No. But you could ask for a meeting. The way they're going to do it is I don't think it's any more expensive than, well, it's less expensive than building a temporary bridge.
No, I'm not saying that. It's just that the plans have changed.
Well, then let's have a meeting with them.
That's up to the board. I'm just saying that.
I don't have
And they give us different percentages off for having a detour and a different way of doing it. And maybe the percentage is the same now that we're gonna leave one span.
No, the price was with the temporary.
Right, but you've got a percent off. I don't know what it was. It wasn't the 10%. It was, I don't remember. I haven't done it.
Well, if I remember correctly, if you close the road, the cost was far less.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. It was like 3 million.
So is there any difference now because we're having a single span open all the time?
No, let's meet with them.
That's me. We can schedule a meeting.
It's intuitive that a single span would cost less, and yet the cost has gone up. This is why I think a conversation with them in light of this price increase is something that is prudent to do.
So we'll set up, try to have a meeting with V-Trans.
Is that, why don't somebody make a motion and I'll write them a letter and say you want a meeting?
Somebody make that motion?
So
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay.
But I didn't mean to interrupt John's point about the budget.
Well, if you want to discuss that now, John, you want to put that on for another time, how we're going to fund this?
Well, I don't think there's much discussion to it. I was just hoping the board would be aware that you're gonna have to raise more money somehow. Whether it be through the capital budget or whether we borrow money or what we do. We can't wait till the last minute to do this.
Nope.
So is it a recommendation of the capital budget or what?
Probably the capital budget.
I don't think that's the way to go. I mean, the capital budget can only take so much.
No, I mean, the recommendation has to come from somebody. Are you proposing it come from us or from the capital budget?
I don't know.
maybe we can take that as an action item to explore different ways to fund the increase.
Well, why don't we wait till we have the meeting of details, and then we can discuss it.
Yeah.
How's that?
Would you be okay with that?
All right. Is there anything else on the highway? Okay.
Danny,
Danny said he wanted to do
Yeah.
something other.
Under the
Danny,
other, under highway, I do. Landowners out on Cabell Road at the intersection of Cabell and 121 asked if they could put a fence up to the corners of Cabell Bridge.
Is that on their property or is that town property?
It'll be in the town right away up to the corners of the bridge.
Why would we want to okay something in the town right away?
Well, it comes up to the corners. It's not gonna affect what we do, but if you do approve of it, then they have to have something recorded with the land record saying that we're not liable for their fence.
And then what happens, Danny, someday if that bridge is ever replaced with their fencing?
It would still be the town's right away to do whatever's needed to do the bridge.
Or the fence would have to come down then, perhaps?
Then the fence would have to come down.
What's the purpose of their fence?
They wanted to put it up because it's such a drop off to the brook on both sides of their property to protect their child.
I see.
Does anybody have any feelings for that?
No, I just, if it's a safety issue for the family, I doesn't agree with the family.
Danny, will it affect plowing or grading or anything like that? No?
No, because the side they're on is when you come back up to plowing, so it really doesn't affect it. I just told them that the town would have something written up that if it does get damaged, that we're not gonna fix it.
Does the town have a say as to what kind of fence?
They were asking, they thought they were gonna do a split rail fence with a wire attached to it.
But what if they change their mind down the road and it's something that looks gaudy and the town doesn't like it?
I guess that's where Bill had something in the letter stating that it can't be like that. I don't know.
We'll get the fence viewers after them.
Well, does the board want to have Bill explore this and talk to them about the fencing and they come up with some kind of an agreement that we can approve at the following, at some meeting?
So, Mr. Chair, with all due respect, we do have a highway committee, and we could, if we wanted to refer this item until another meeting, we could possibly ask the highway committee and Danny to explore it a little bit further. That would be another option.
That's fine with me. I don't think we can discuss it now until somebody takes a look at the problem. So if you want to do the highway committee, that's fine. And they can come back and give a report next week or next meeting. Okay, everybody?
Yep.
Danny, just tell them that if they call you or you call them, that the highway committee will be out to investigate or talk to them about it.
Yep.
And, we'll take it under advisement.
Yep. I'll let them know.
Okay. You have anything else?
That's it.
I got something. Danny, if Kathy explains to you what the problem is on Parker Hill as far as the culvert and water runoff, could you please talk to her about it?
Yeah, I'm not aware of the culvert problem on Parker Hill.
There's an area on the hill that the water's not even going into the culvert. It goes into the field, our field, well, actually, Dale's field, which comes on to our right of way and upsets our culvert on our right of way. And if you're coming down the hill, the right side where you put in the stones and dug out, no water's going on that side of the road. So I'm not sure how those culverts up there are working. I don't know.
I guess we'll have to meet and look at it because we haven't had any problems with the culverts, so.
And then as you approach Sue Lathrop's for her driveway, that middle section of the road is like soup. But since you put the stones down, it's better, a lot better than it was last year. I'm
We,
curious about how those culverts are working up there.
we had many roads with a lot of mud on it, so unless the town wants to start putting drainage in, I don't know what they're gonna do with it other than dealing with it every year.
Do you have time to look at it with me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, do we have anything else on the highway? No? Okay. Move on, clerk and treasurer. Kim, you want to talk about record retention?
Sure. Now, I think I've sent everybody a copy of the record retention policy that I wanted you to look over, decide if it's something that we can adopt. What triggered this is I'm trying to clean the vault, get rid of anything that we don't need. If I keep things for too long and I keep them in my office, they are subject to open to the public. If I've got a retention schedule and I have permission to get rid of them, public comes in and asks for something, I can legally say that this is our policy. I had the ability to remove it. I had called Vassar and talked with them about a few of the questions I had of removing some items, and typically what we've had to do in the past is I actually had to document anything that I was to get rid of. So she asked me if we had a policy. I said we hadn't. She said it's no longer needed to document what I do get rid of as long as we have this policy in place. So what she did is she sent me an example of their model policy and conform it to Town of Grafton, and along with it is the 11-page chart that lists pretty much everything that I deal with in the office. It gives, and if you look at the top, it gives the minimum retention, and then it gives the Town of Grafton, and the Town of Grafton retention is what we as a Town of Grafton would like to hold on to and for how long. And that can change. So I wanted everybody to see what the model is that this one town proposed and has adopted. But we can tweak that line. We can't tweak the minimum retention because that is by law, whether it be by the Secretary of State, Vermont Public Meetings Law, and various departments. So going back to the records management policy and retention plan, that would be an adoption today. And on the last page, it would say, to give an example, that's where this 11-page would come into play. I'm okay with almost everything on it, but if we were to turn to, I'm going to say page 3, canceled checks. On this one here, it's until audit is complete, and then they keep theirs for 7 years. I think 5 years is sufficient for us. Unless you guys feel otherwise. Sometimes I wonder about if they had 7 years, maybe a lot of towns don't audit their books on a yearly basis. It's not a requirement, whereas Grafton does audit by a professional outside auditor every single year. So a lot of these say until audit is complete, and I can get rid of like a lot of things. Well, I don't like to get rid of too much. So canceled checks, I'd like to change that to 5 years. Moving down, check registers. We don't have any, but they have 7 years. That's okay, I'll do that. Check stubs. Again, it says until audit's complete, they use 7 years. Again, I'd like to use 5. I've never had to go back to somebody's check stubs, but we keep them anyways. On page 4, deposit receipts. again, until audit's complete. They put 7 years. I, again, would like 5 years. There has been times we've had to go back through them. 5 might even be too much, but it gives me 2 years of cleaning out what's in there to make space. Deposit slips, again, I'd like 5 years rather than 7. Page 6 is invoices paid by the town. And this is kind of where I'd like the town administrator, not that, Bill does a whole lot, but there are some, or the highway department. It's until audit's complete, then I can get rid of them. Right now, I've been holding 7 years worth. So every time a fiscal year ends, I've got 7 years worth that I've been holding on to. I'd like to change that to 5 years. Very seldom have I had to go back more than 2 years, if that, to ever look up an invoice that we had paid on something. Everything now is so electronic that I can call Green Mountain Power and find out what we paid, 2 years ago, and they can give me this pie chart or whatever. So that's the only one on that page. Paycheck stubs. Again, until audit's complete, they said 7 years. I'd like 5 years on those. It's pretty much the same stubs. Our AP and paychecks or payroll have the same stubs, and I've been keeping them for years. Receipt books on page 5. I'd like that again for 5 years. Spreadsheets of financial accounting. I think I'd like that to 5 years. Tax receipts. That's another thing that I have multiple years of over notebooks and binders. I only need them until audit's complete, but I do go back through those, and I would say 5 years on those also. And then timesheets. Again, unless personnel feels we need to keep timesheets any longer, I'd say 5 years on those also. And those are the only changes on the spreadsheet that I would like to adopt and consider this our policy. And then if I find that we're not even using anything over a 4-year period of time, we can always come back to it and amend it and just change the years again. But if you have anything outside of what I just said, and after you've looked at the chart and you want to change, just this would be the time. Any questions?
Are you looking for a motion for us to approve this?
Yep, it would be a motion to adopt the record management policy and retention plan by the town of Grafton.
Do we have any discussion or comments or whatever? I would say we should make a recommendation, but not the board.
Yes. I'll make a motion.
All right. So what does the motion want to say, Kim? Would you like to have it?
Well, it's to adopt the record management policy and retention plan with the exception, along with the spreadsheet, with the exception so noted. And then I'd go over with Bill those exact ones,
Okay.
because I have them highlighted.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So if there's no further discussion, everybody who's in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Kim, you can work with Bill. Oh, Bill, go ahead.
Who was second, please?
Second.
Sue, okay. Thanks, Sue.
All right, Kim, you're gonna work with Bill and to get the details and everything else for the motion.
Okay.
Okay. And do you have anything else?
Let's see, I think we said, I guess the next meeting, since this meeting is so full, I'll give the quarterlies and have enough time because I just accepted the AP and payroll today for the past 2 weeks. So we'll be up to date on the quarterlies and I'll give you those figures. And then again, you can call me and ask me any questions on them to see where we stand, as we're going to be right up to the end of the fiscal year here soon. Fourth quarter taxes are coming up. Dogs have been coming in. I'd say we're about up to 132 dogs out of typically 160 some odd dogs registered. I'm gonna do a little bit more work this week. Through the grapevine, I've got to call the LCT because some people are talking that we can't, until we're out of the state of emergency, we shouldn't be charging for late fees. So I want to verify that before I tack on late fees for dogs that were not registered as of April 1st. But we've had a really good response, even though the office doors closed for appointments only. People have been great, and we've been mailing them. Cost us a little bit more for postage, but it's worked out great. I haven't heard of too many problems. Other than that, that's it.
I'd just like to remind the board that for the next meeting, we'll put on the agenda the quarterly review. So Kim will send out the financials, and if you have any questions of Kim, see her, and then we can discuss anything at the next meeting. That's something we do on each quarter, just to make sure that we're sticking to our budget and there's no surprises. Are you okay, Kim, or anything else? Anything
Nope,
else?
that's it. I'm all set.
All right, the next item is the review and adopt the local emergency management plan.
I sent all that to you and sent it to the Emergency Management Committee several weeks ago. And so I'm here to answer any questions on it, but it is completed if you're ready to approve it. It's timely right now that it be approved by the select board.
Excuse me, Bill.
Uh-huh.
When I looked over it on the third page, under potential EOC staff members, you have my email address wrong.
Okay,
Got it KRECIRD and it's ORD. That's all.
oh, I got it, yeah,
Thanks.
okay, yeah.
Does anybody have any, I looked at the thing, and it looks all right by me, so, Bill, you're okay with the plan?
Yeah, what I did is there have been some personnel changes. I updated those, and there's been some minor changes, other changes that I updated, but there's nothing. It's basically the same plan we've had for about 3 years. I changed the fire chief, for instance, and the a deputy emergency management director, and we have a new coordinator in Amber Stevens.
And Bill, I believe I made a recommendation to add Mary Fader.
Mary Fader's been added.
Okay.
She's there.
Thank you.
So if there's no other discussion, someone make a motion to accept the amended emergency management.
I want to adopt it, not accept it, and for you and I to sign it. You as chair and myself as EMD.
Somebody want to make that motion? Second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I think we should thank Bill. That was an enormous effort. Well,
He likes to do it. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Bill, I have a question for the new select people. Remember we had the select board had to take that course that we did up at the.
Oh, yeah,
Do the new members have to take that as well?
everybody, every year, if they haven't had the ICS for managers, needs to take that.
Right, okay. So.
I'll find-
I don't know what the regulations are with COVID.
You can basically take it online. I will get that information and let them know, and if they're having a class online, I'll let you know.
Okay.
that'd be great. Thank you, Bill.
And so who needs it? Just Sue and Suzanne?
You took it, right, Kathy?
Okay, all right.
All right, Suzanne, you're on that with the wastewater.
Great, thank you so much. Now that I've been elected to the select board, it's incumbent upon me to resign my post from the water commission. So my report, and I thank you, Mr. Chair, for this opportunity. to provide an update and a path forward for the Water Commission. I'm hoping that there are commissioners viewing the meeting tonight, but since I can't see, the commissioners are Chris Wallace, Meg Gonzalez, Paul Hallett, and Nat Ciano. I'll be resigning, so one of the actions I'm going to ask the board to take tonight is filling my vacancy, and also I'd like to share with you our new model for leadership. So before I get to that, I just want to spend a minute talking about the history of the Water Commission. It was almost exactly 2 years ago today that the Select Board formed the Water Committee, and since then we've been changed from a committee status to commission status, so that's why you'll hear me referring to us as the Commission and Commissioners. In that 2-year period of time, in 2019, we conducted 56 free drinking water tests in the village, and from those tests, we learned that there is no immediate danger for drinking water contamination due to septic failure in the village. And that was really good news. And we reported this to the people who participated in the study, as well as to the Select Board and to the public. Then just more recently, in November of 2020, we surveyed 68 properties in the village, in the high priority, high need portion of the village, on their wastewater management. And from the conclusion on that survey, we decided that we should pursue an engineering study. And so that's where we are now. In fact, one of the possible engineers and the team that actually did the feasibility study for us in 2001 was here today to meet with Matt. So that brings me to the transition plan. Right now, we have a traditional setup with a chair and members of the commission. Because we have such great team members and they're also busy, we came up with what I call now the shared leadership model for the commission. And as Joe said, it's really pretty much up to us how we organize ourselves, but I wanted to fill you in on how this is going to work. So Chris Wallace is going to be leading the education component of our work, and he's going to be supported by Meg Gonzalez. The engineering portion of the work is going to be led by Nat Ciano, and he's going to be supported by Paul Hallett. This leaves an important portion of the work to be done and to be filled, and that is the administrative portion. And this can be very time intensive, and it's essentially what I was able to do, what I was able to contribute to the commission's work. It had to do largely with warning the meeting, setting up the agendas, keeping track of the action items, all the things it takes to make the wheels turn. I also want to mention one other thing, and that is Stan Mack. Stan was our, and still is, our spiritual leader and guide, and he is not able to take on the leadership role of the commission. He would have been the natural choice, I think we all agree, but he's not going to be able to do that. Thankfully, he has agreed to stay on as an ex officio member. So with that in mind, we had a lot of change to deal with, and I think we have a great plan, and I hope that you approve it. So I'm going to make 2 motions and then open it for discussion. Mr. Chair, my first motion is to request the approval of the appointment of Charlie V. Bonin, Esquire, as my replacement on the commission. And Charlie is joining us tonight. That's the red square on the screen. So, Mr. Chair, with your permission, I will make additional comments in the discussion portion of the
We need a
motion.
second for that.
Okay.
Discussion now.
Thank you. So Charlie is a part-time resident of Grafton. He and Jeanette live at 70 School Street. And he has frequently attended select board meetings, either remotely or in person. And he has a red hat, and that's how he's distinguished, hence the red square on the screen. Charlie is a practicing attorney in Morristown, New Jersey, and thankfully, he has agreed to take on this administrative role. And this is huge, and I'm so, the commission approved unanimously to recommend him to the select board as the person to fill this vacancy. Now, I want to address an issue that is probably on your mind and maybe on the mind of the public as very upfront. And that is the fact that Charlie doesn't live here full-time. And he will be joining the meetings remotely, and he will join them personally when he is here. And I first want to acknowledge that Charlie himself realized that this might be a concern on the part of the select board and on the part of our citizens. But I wanted to mention to you that the commission voted unanimously to place Charlie on the commission because he does care about Grafton. He is a second homeowner, and second homeowners will be taxed as well as residents of Grafton should we move forward on a wastewater management plan. So it seemed to us that that would be a good segment of our population to be represented on the team. And if, as I just mentioned, he's willing to take on the administrative side of the responsibilities, it's obvious that he's willing to roll up his sleeves and work hard for us. And we think that these qualifications far override the fact that Charlie would be meeting with us remotely. Thank you for that opportunity, and now I'll answer any questions you have for Charlie Whittle.
Well, I had an opportunity to talk with Charlie last week and got to know him through our conversation. I think it's really important for Grafton to recognize the second homeowner that's taking on this role. He understands he can't be here all the time. He does have his business and also family issues, but he's really very sincere about his love of Grafton and concern to do the best he can for our town. So I want to thank Suzanne for pursuing Charlie. I think he's going to be a great match for us in his leadership with the water commissioner.
I agree with that.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll call the question. So all in favor of Charlie Bogan to I guess, what are you going to call him? The
Commissioner.
Commissioner?
Will be appointed on a 3-year term.
Okay. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And
Charlie.
my second motion is, I move to appoint Paul Halleck to another 1-year term on the commission, and additionally, the appointment of Heather Gregory as an ex officio member of the commission. And as I mentioned earlier, Stan Mack has agreed to continue as an ex officio member. And once again, I'll save my comments for the discussion portion, Mr. Chair.
Bill?
Paul Halleck for how long?
1 year. 1 year. His term ends on this year, and he's agreed to serve for 1 more year.
So we have a motion, will we second?
Second.
And what did you call Heather's position, please?
Heather will serve as an ex officio
officio.
member. So you all know Paul Halleck, and he has been an invaluable member of our team. He brings enormous local knowledge and institutional knowledge to the job, and we're really glad he agreed to serve another term. Should you decide to appoint him. Heather is also very well known to us, and I feel very fortunate that she agreed to serve on this commission. She is a stalwart of our community, and she brings knowledge of Grafton and her wisdom and her perspective to the job, and I'm really pleased to be able to bring forth her name. And then finally, as part of this motion, I ask for my resignation to be accepted. And I want to take this opportunity to express my gratitude for the opportunity to serve on this commission. You know, when Joe and Stan put this commission together 2 years ago, it was considered kind of their baby. And I still think it's one of the most important projects we have in this town. And it was really my honor to serve on it and to serve with the commissioners that I did. So I now turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
We do have a motion on the floor. No? Yes.
We don't have a second.
Yeah,
Oh, we need a
John
second.
seconds.
Yeah, no, John seconded it.
Okay.
Do we have any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion to have Paul Howard go for 1 more year and for Heather Gregory to serve as ex-officio?
And,
Aye?
and,
Oh,
And for me to
oh,
resign.
and for to accept Suzanne motion's resignation. We really have to accept it.
Don't you want to?
Anyway, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you, Suzanne.
And thank you, Charlie, for being there tonight.
Where's Charlotte? You never speak. So we
No.
only see his name.
I'd like to thank everybody, and Suzanne and everyone. I met with most of you, and I appreciate the interview and all the kind words, Suzanne, and I look forward to being a commissioner. And Suzanne, I really wish that you could stay on somehow, because I'm going to need you and Kim. And Kim, you're in big trouble, because I understand that you were on the board previously, and I'm going to need all the help I can get. But thank you all very much.
I'll help you.
Okay, thanks, Kim. Thank you.
Charlie, I apologize for not being able to meet with you when you were here, but I will be in Sugar House, and I just didn't work for me. But anyway, next time when you're up, we'll get together.
Yeah. Well, so I learned something recently, that when you have a sugar house and it starts getting warm, the sugar starts getting cloudy or something, and you have to make sure that you do whatever you do. That's as much as I know.
I have one more day, and then it's end, the end of the season.
Well, that's more important.
The next item is the action list that you all sent. This is something that we had, and then it kind of got dropped, and then John, you reminded us. I reviewed it personally, and I think everything is on there that we need, but if there's something that we left off, or something that needs to be added, please speak. Anybody happy with it? All right, so if that's the case, Bill, do we need a motion for this? No.
now this is just kind of a reminder list, kind of like the dates that I sent to you about a month ago, right after the election, with all the dates for the rest of the year. If any of you did not get that, let me know. I'll make sure I get it out to you again.
Yeah, Bill, the other thing too is that we have this emergency management sheet.
Oh, yeah.
That we need
I-
to get that updated with the new
Okay.
members on there and
Yeah.
any new emails and whatever, so that everybody has a copy.
Okay.
Joe, it's on here, I think somewhere, bids for, like sand and salt and like that, when do they go out?
I think it's not now, I think it's later on in the month, May, something like that. Danny, you still on? No.
I don't see.
I have to ask Danny.
Well, it's not on the timeline.
No, because Danny usually will talk to the board and say it's time and go. I think that's how it's been working.
Yeah, the salt, seems to me it was in May and the contract was actually let out in June.
Yeah.
I don't remember sand.
Well, you haven't, I don't think you, the sand and gravel, that you have let that out to bid
Who?
because of where we did it now, but as he stated in the last meeting, we've only got 1 year left.
Yeah.
And so I would almost say that you want to put it out to bid so that you can get other people interested.
Well, if I remember correctly, the state bids come out, and maybe that's when we did, because the state will send out you can buy salt from the state. So when they send out what the bid is, then usually that's when we talk about, and then
I'm thinking that we already did salt, just like December or January. I wish Danny was on. I'm pretty sure we did, but
we can check it.
yeah,
and
but I'll
put it
check on
the
both
next
of
meeting.
those.
We'll put it on for the next agenda item.
I think that the main concern is the gravel
Okay,
part of it, other than sand, because I don't know where you're gonna get.
okay, we'll put it on the agenda. Any public comment? No public, no.
I missed sitting with Johnny and Joe.
Do we have any public comment from our two visitors? No. If not, do we have any other business?
I have one thing.
Okay.
On the timeline, 2020, 21, 22, April 5th, open and award bond bids.
Good catch,
Are these at a different time too?
Sometimes we don't hit here exactly.
That's why it's on there. It's on there to remind me what we forgot. So yeah,
No.
okay.
We'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Along with the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Thank you, John. We need somebody to keep us on our
yeah,
toes.
really.
If there's no other business, the date of the next meeting is April 19th here at 6 PM. And we need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, second.
Okay, great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, who's on Microsoft Teams and live for coming to the meeting.